Welcome to I Pod a Spell on You, Edy Hurst's Wonderfull Discoverie of Witches podcast. The podcast utilising 1700s and back spells, incantations and best guesses to help guests and listeners solve all of their problems. Is that the... Yes. Hello! Welcome to I Pod a Spell on You, Edy Hurst's Wonderfull Discoverie of Witches podcast. I am the middle part of that title. Edy Hurst. I think maybe I should count the letters to make sure that I'm accurate there. Hold on a minute. Today on the episode, I have a fantastic guest, Beck Hill. Today feels confusing as a thing to say on the show, because it's today for me, but actually we recorded this episode a few months ago. And you'll definitely be listening to this a different today than my today. My guest on this episode is Beck Hill. She is a fantastic comedian, presenter, writer, a real, I don't want to say jack of all trades, because I feel like that does a disservice to the level of skill she has in each of those fields. But we discuss it in the episode, and we also discuss her work. If you haven't ever seen what she does in a live show before, I would urge you to go onto YouTube and search Beck Hill and have a look at the work that she does, the flip chart things. It's sort of live animation, paper puppetry. It's incredible. I don't think anyone does anything remotely similar to it, and it's very exciting and very cool. And alongside that, she's also a writer. She's written for The Amazing World of Gumball. She has a series of horror-themed children's books, which is right on brand for us, because I'm assuming we're all children here. I'm only 12 to maybe 35 in acting age, if any agents are here. And she's also a presenter. She presented Make Away Takeaway, a kids show on CITV, as well as currently working on a Lego thing that looks very cool. So before we get into the interview, where she asks me for a spell that I have been looking forward to doing since I started this podcast, so I am absolutely delighted to be able to help her out, whilst also indirectly helping your boy Edy Hurst out. And if you want to help your boy Edy Hurst out, why not? Subscribe to the podcast, like it, share a kind word on social media. You can follow me on there as well. I'm at EDYHURST on more or less all of them, I think. Although more keep happening now, don't they? Which is making it confusing for me to know which ones I should really waste my life in. Also, for any Edinburgh Fringe-bound audience members that are listening to this, come and see the live show that this is a companion piece for, which is Edy Hurst's Wonderfull Discoverie of Witches in the Countie of himself. It is going to be at the Assembly, George Square, the Crate, that's the sub-venue, from the 18th to the 26th of August at 1620. I think 4:20 p.m.'s probably fine, right? Isn't it? 4:20 a.m. Could you imagine? I mean, I know that the demand for Fringe venues is high, but I feel like 4:20 a.m. is too early, right? But please come along. It is a show about the Lancashire witch trials, neurodivergence, and the Venga Boys. If you've liked this podcast, you will like the show. And I'm very excited for that. And also, please do have a look, if you're not going to the Fringe, at the show's tour premiere at the Lowry, Salford, on the 31st of October. Very spooky. And the 1st of November, Halloween Boxing Day. And after that as well, if you're in London or London Way, on December the 12th and 13th, you can see the show there at Camden People's Theatre. Not as scary, but Friday the 13th. That's in the top 13 spooky dates of the 13. I mean, where would Friday the 13th come? It'd come 13th, wouldn't it? Well, no, because it would be higher than... It doesn't matter. Anyway, so please do have a look. Come along to those. It'd be great to see you there. And if you want to get in touch with me doing any spell requests for you, the listeners, edyhurst@gmail.com, or my website edyhurst.co.uk, or the social medias I mentioned before. I've got one that I've got a very exciting spell that I'm going to do in the next episode after this one that an audience member has gotten in touch with. So brace yourselves. Things are going to get pretty spooky. So on this interview, I talked to Beck to try and help her track down her phone that she got stolen when she was at Comic-Con in Belgium a few months ago, which I think it's awful having things pickpocketed anyway, but it must be even worse when you're in a country that you're not necessarily familiar with, and you can feel really stranded there. And I think another thing that Beck mentions in here, which is really something that I think is a very 21st century problem, is that that phone's stolen, and it's not just a way for her to talk to people, but it's also potentially like a wallet, a payment thing, a communication for the internet to send emails out and get in touch with people, but also like a whole photo album, and like a whole, if it's not backed up or whatever, like a whole storage thing for correspondence with people. And that's gone. That's like losing a huge part of your like tangible memory in a way that I don't think has ever happened before. People might steal a diary if they burgle your house or something, but it seems like a pretty deliberate thing for someone to steal a photo album, whereas something like that can just accidentally get stolen now, which I can speak from experience of this, because actually as I was doing a promoted post for this podcast a few months ago, I got an email in my inbox, in my main inbox, not in my spam or nothing, saying, "Oh, your paid advertisement breaches community standards. You got 24 hours to reply." And I was like, I guess witches is enough of a hot topic that somebody might report it or something. Maybe the occult. I don't know what annoys people online. I've paid for more people to see it. Some of those people might be maniacs. So I go to it. It's like a pretty sophisticated looking form. I'm really gearing up the twist. The twist has been so signposted here. I put all of my login details in and my password for my Meta account, and it gets bounced out. So I put my password that I put in when the first password is wrong because I've probably forgotten it in the combination. I eventually go through all the combinations of the password, another password, and then I leave it for a bit, and it starts to occur to me when I start getting a request for payment for an ad campaign that I hadn't scheduled, that maybe something was going on, and then it turns out I couldn't get into my account. I couldn't get into my other account that is connected to that account, and the account was suspended. It didn't exist anymore, and I realised that I had my Facebook account stolen off me. My Facebook page for somebody to try and run their own advertisements through my ad account, which I'd managed to cancel all of that, so none of the money had gone, and they'd managed to stop that fraudulent activity from happening. But then I couldn't get my personal account back, which this feels like a very millennial thing. Like, I have had that account since I was at high school. There are friendships on there that I only keep now from them being on there. There are conversations logged from there. There are photos I'm tagged in that I probably don't ever want to see again. But the fact that somebody's taken them from me just to try and charge like £50 to run their own promotion, it's nuts. And it took me absolutely months to get it back, and I got it back in a very convoluted way that if anyone's going through something similar, please get in touch and I'll help you out. Not that I'm saying this not as if I have any like expert insight, but just I might be able to point you to the person who actually helped me. I don't know. And it's wild that all of that was just gone. Like, I have friends who passed away who their accounts are still on Facebook, but because they're passed, they're closed for people to visit. So it's not like I can make a new account and see them again and connect with them. And that feels like a very 21st century thing to experience. And there was absolutely no help generally for it. So I did eventually get it back, which I'm very grateful for. But wild, and also wild that these sort of little things that we own contain so many memories that can just get taken away. But in lighter news, we also talk about how Beck is now an unofficial adult tooth fairy, which comes in very handy. It doesn't sound like she's keen on it, but I'm pretty sure someday we're going to be able to smoke a dead man's tooth as part of these spells that we go through. We'll dive into that. We'll also talk about the how of making things, like being sort of interested in the how rather than the why, as is often the case in theatrical making, which I think is a very neurodivergent thing to be wondering the can I do it, how can I do it, the problem solving, the being attracted to solving a problem as much as it is connecting with the audience through that thing. We go into all of that. It's a great chat, and thank you so much to Beck for her time. Like I said, like, subscribe, enjoy the episode, and also come along to see me in the Ad Fringe if you're not going to be, okay? Hello, Beck. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Beck Hill. I'm a comedian born in Australia, now based in the UK, hence the accent.
No,
I do
that's
flip
good.
charts, and I have hosted children's television.
And written children's books.
I've done a lot.
So you started comedy in Australia. What was that like?
Well, comedy wasn't a job when I was growing up. There was no career path to be a comedian because being a comedian wasn't an option. So I knew I wanted to do stand-up comedy, but it was only ever like a hobby. But there were a couple of stand-up comedians on television, and I just had no idea how they got to where they were. Like there's no path. There were no courses. There was one comedy club in Adelaide where I grew up at the time, and they had comedy on like twice a week. They'd have like a new material night, and then they'd have like, a pro night, and that was kind of it. I finished high school and took a year off while I decided to try and work out what I wanted to do because I didn't know, and I entered the stand-up comedy competition called Raw Comedy, which is a bit like So You Think You're Funny over here, but most people who enter it have never done comedy before in their lives because it's like that's how you sort of get an opportunity to do it. Is you're like, oh, I'll enter a competition where everyone else hasn't done it either. I did all right. I didn't win, but I had a really great time and everyone was really nice and I fell in love with it instantly. And I did enter again the following. You're allowed to enter twice. And so I entered the following year when I'd probably had about 5 gigs under my belt because when there's only one room in the city that it's hard to get stage time. And I did a bit better. I made it to the national final that year, which is nice because that's televised. So that was on Melbourne Town Hall at Melbourne Comedy Festival. Yeah, which was really awesome. And yeah, there was other amazing acts on that year as well. Like Tom Ballard was on, Celia Piccola was on. There was a wild card that got through from South Australia. So I won the South Australian state final, and then there was a wild card that got let through as well. They'd actually not got through the Tasmanian one, so they'd come to South Australia to have another crack. And so yeah, the judges were like, oh well, obviously they won it, let's pop them through. That's not it. They were very talented, that's why they did it. And they ended up winning the entire competition.
Whoa.
So yeah, and I don't know what happened to them. What was her name? Hannah Gadsby. Never heard of them. No idea what they went on to do. No idea. Yeah, so I love telling people like I beat Hannah Gadsby in the competition. But I mean, really, I think it's more a case that if they'd made Hannah Gadsby win, everyone would have been like, she's not even from South Australia. So I think I was like the technical winner. But it was a really good year.
Yeah, but I think what you do in comedy is amazing. I think it's incredible. I don't think anyone else does anything like it. And I'd love for you to describe that a little bit for people who maybe haven't seen your comedy before. And I also have some follow-up questions on it. But I think as a creative person as well, I think do people describe you as a polymath? Have you heard that description of yourself before?
I haven't been called a polymath. That's very cool. I like that. I mean, it makes me sound smarter than I am. I like the term, what is it? Multi-hyphenate. Multi-hyphenate is when you've got lots of things. My stand-up, I still find it really hard to describe. And I think that's because I haven't really ever been able to land on one thing or the other. One thing that's sort of run throughout my career, and I can't see myself ever stop doing it, is I use these flip charts. I make these flip charts, which are kind of like, I call them paper puppetry. It's sort of like a pop-up book, but without 3 dimensions, because I'm not good at 3 dimensions. I'm good at 2 dimensions. So it's almost like basic live animation. I don't know. If you're not sure, Google Beck Hill flip chart, stuff will come up. But yeah, that originally started because I had an idea for a sketch, but I didn't really want to drag someone else into being on stage with me, whether it was like a comedy partner or someone from the audience. Like, there's just, it was too much for just one sketch. And I was like, So I thought, I'll draw a picture with the 2 characters on there and give them moving mouths so you know who's talking. And the sketch itself wasn't great, but everyone really enjoyed the moving mouths. That went down very well. And so I started to do more of that. And yeah, from there sort of started developing different techniques and working out what worked. And
So did
yeah,
you
I
do
really
that
enjoy
all
it.
on your own? Like, how do you learn how you do those things?
Yeah, that was all on my own. The initial stuff of like how to do moving mouths and stuff was a really basic technique that I think I'd picked up from Art Attack when I was a kid, because I used to love making like greeting cards and stuff like that, and put little moving elements and stuff in them. So, that was a very basic thing. And then once I sort of realized like, oh, it's fun if something moves and you don't expect it to move, then you just start figuring it out. And I still to this day, like, I just experiment a lot. I just see how something moves if I push something or pull something, or I know that if I knew the mathematics behind it, I could probably engineer something that works really slickly. And I've got some beautiful pop-up books with incredible engineering in them. And a few times I've been like, oh man, I'm very tempted to try and reproduce this on a massive scale.
Oh, yeah.
But the amount of, like, my brain just can't fathom those dimensions. But it can go, I want this to look like this, or I want this to happen, and then I sort of reverse engineer and work it out from there. And that part of the process I really enjoy. It's something really playful. It's kind of like being a kid again, of just being like, okay, let's try this and let's try this. There's so much trial and error, and there's so many things that I try and they don't work, but I don't know, something very meditative about sitting there and trying something and it not working, and then trying it again, and then once you've done it, once you've worked it out, that it's so thrilling. And then you feel good when you make it, and you're like, oh, I've done my challenge. And then when you perform it, and there's a moment where you'll move something or do something and you'll hear people gasp, like you'll hear someone go, oh, and that is just, I could live off of that. I could live like, I wouldn't need food or what, like, forget the hierarchy of needs. I think I want my life's motto to be surprise and delight.
I think whilst what we do comedy-wise is quite different in terms of, like, I do musical comedy and mucking around with a loop pedal, but I think there's that, I think with musical comedy and with the papercraft things and the paper puppetry, I feel like there is so much of this experimenting on your own, and then it is a bit of like, look what I made! What do you think of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really like it, but I also, something I wonder with myself, and I think we were talking about this earlier in the year, is like, I feel like that showing, it's quite different to like traditional stand-up, where somebody has the microphone, they go on stage, they chat, and they have to pretend to the audience like, I'm coming up with this right now. This is all new. I guess, how do you feel about that? Do you prefer that? Because I certainly think that I quite like, which for somebody as disorganized as me, I do really like that organisation of being like, well, I have a little list of the songs that I can do on stage, and I might not do all of the songs, but this is definitely what I'm going to do. And I know that there's a beginning to this song and an end to this song, and I quite like that. And
there's a safe feeling to that. Yeah. I do like knowing, okay, these bits are flip charts, so I just need to work out what goes between them and that sort of thing. There are sometimes I love doing stand up, because they'll just straight stand up, because I'll have an idea or a thought that I think is really fun to play around with, and it depends on the audience and how I'm able to sort of form it. It's weird because I love talking. That's why I really like doing podcasts and stuff. Like, I bloody love talking so much. All of my friends will happily tell you. But when it comes to stand-up, I find that sometimes the things I enjoy the most are the things where I don't talk much. So the flip charts, I don't tend to talk very much, if at all. I've got a new bit where it's a very clowny bit, where it's to Tom Jones singing "You Can Leave Your Hat On," and I sort of do a very silly quote. I'm doing quotation marks for listeners, a strip tease to that. But it's very clowny and very silly, and I don't talk during that either. And I really enjoy it so much. And I think there's just something about trying to communicate stuff without words is a really fun challenge. And it's a nice break too. It's a nice break from a brain. And people can't judge you when you're not saying stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, that's... Yeah,
I mean, they can't judge you for what you're saying.
So have you always done done flip chart things? Was it always something that was part of the act?
Not from the get-go. I think it came... I don't think I was even doing it when I won the competition. Or like... Yeah, or at least I definitely didn't do it in that set. But it was very early on, somewhere within the first 2 years of me starting stand-up. And then, it's developed since then. I think that was the first time where I was like, oh, okay, this is my USP. This is the thing that, And as I said, I really like making them. It's fun. I'm due another one soon. I've got to.
Do you feel it? Do you feel it bubbling in, or is there like a
I
deadline?
can feel it bubbling. Yeah. There's two I've got ideas for. One that I think has got a lot more viral, possibility, but which is super bad. It's one of those things where I'll feel really like gross doing it because I'll be like, this is a little bit hack, but I know that people will like it, and I'll come up with some really fun stuff in there that makes it feel smart and artsy.
Yeah. But you're very good at social media. You're great. You've loads of viral bits.
I don't know if I agree. I feel like anytime I put a lot of effort into something, nothing happens. Like the amount of effort I put in versus like and then I painted my wardrobes recently. And I filmed a time lapse of that and stuck it up, and I posted a thing about my landlord saying like I could repaint them as long as it was reasonable. And I was like, oh, what do you think? Reasonable or unreasonable? And I just thought that's as far as it would go. People would say that they liked it or didn't like it, and that would be it. And like people were saying I should be evicted, that I'm the reason that landlords hate tenants, that all this stuff for over some paint that can very easily wash off even. Like I wouldn't even have to paint over it.
Wow.
And it was just people went absolutely off. And then other people obviously came to my defense and were like, why are people saying that? Like I say in the video, I've been in this place for 10 years, like looking at the same wardrobes. And they're awful wardrobes, Eddie. They're so horrible. Like on the inside, they're real slapdash. And so, it was just some people then, it was interesting. And so I had this like all out class war in the comments. And so then it had like 2.7 million views. And I was just like, on Instagram, that's more than anything I've ever had on Instagram. So I just, I don't feel like I'm good at social media because I don't understand it or necessarily like it. But but I'm on it a lot.
Yeah, hey,
I'm addicted. That's
something.
That's the truth. I'm very addicted to social media.
Yeah. Well, I really like what you do on social media. But then that's why I've invited you onto the podcast, because I like
hooray!
Which is fortunate, isn't it? Because imagine if I didn't.
If you hadn't invited me, I was just practicing Zoom links. I was just putting numbers at the end of the / and I accidentally showed up in this chat room. And
do you remember what was that? There was that website that was like random.
Chat roulette.
Was that it?
Yeah.
And that was, I'm sure somebody made a podcast on that, right?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It was a while back, wasn't it? I was in a short film that was based on that called Russian Roulette. And this is a very long time ago, probably about 13 years ago. I'd not been in London for that long, actually. And my character is essentially me. It's someone who's just moved to the UK and is feeling very lonely, and she's doing chat roulette, and then she ends up connecting with a Russian cosmonaut who was very lonely. I think they're on the space station. Yeah, they're on the ISS. Yeah. And and it won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance, which is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
This is just me humble bragging now. This whole podcast is me talking about competitions I've done well in. Like,
I think it's a really good point, though, because you just do loads of different things, which is very cool. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, which is coming on to spell stuff, is that you are officially a tooth fairy.
Yes. In fact, I was talking to 2 people today who have teeth that they want to sell me. So I realized that children have the tooth fairy. The tooth fairy, buys their teeth. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what the exchange is. And then I was like, well, how come... Like I had friends who were getting wisdom teeth extracted and stuff. And I think I had mine out. I did have mine out, but I don't remember it. It was a long time ago and I wasn't given the opportunity to keep them. Otherwise I would have. But yeah, I was like, oh, people who are 18 or over lose teeth or still have their baby teeth because the tooth fairy never visited them or maybe gave them back. Who knows? So I was like, well, maybe I should be the tooth fairy, but for grown-ups. And so, yeah, I was like, I just put it out there saying, if you're over 18 and you want to sell me your teeth, I'll buy them. And a lady did. So now it's official. And I'm trying to talk about this more on all the podcasts I do so that I can big up my collection.
Absolutely.
But sometimes when people find out, they're really grossed out. But I'm like, how is this any grosser than the actual tooth fairy, than like the current one? It's not. Tell me it's weirder. It's not.
Well,
I actually meet the people. She sneaks in.
Yeah, that is. If anything,
they.
Consensual swap seems fairer.
Consensual. It's all above board. It's all like out in the open. You know, over the counter. Like, it's not. They're sneaky. No, I'm not sneaking in while you're asleep. I'll tell you that for sure.
Okay. So it sounds, I think it's very wholesome. I think it's very sweet. However, Eddie's got a bit of a magic bind that I think you might be able to help with, Beck.
Okay.
Which I just want to test your thoughts. Maybe we can follow up on it, but it's absolutely fine if not. So part of my show is I invite people on. Thank you very much for coming on, Beck. And I use the cutting edge of magic, best guesses, and sort of old wives' advice, a lot of it, from sort of, when is it, 1700s and past. And one thing that I found a few times is a lot of it, so it's like, I don't know if you know this, Beck, but like things like Eye of Newt, Toe of Frog, things like that, which sound like newts are endangered. There's absolutely no way I can source them in this day and age, let alone find one. But it turns out they're just like mustard seeds.
Oh.
And there's like, yeah, right? Because they look a bit like an eye of a newt, apparently.
Huh.
And there's a spell I did a few times ago needed a wolf's tooth. And I was like, how are we doing that? But it turns out wolf's tooth is a flower called wolfsbane, which is also called a monk's hood, which is just a type of flower.
Huh.
Which is so then imagine my surprise, Beck, when I see a few spells that I think might be useful require the smoke of a dead man's tooth.
Huh. Is that a burp?
Can't find, like, dead man's tooth is not a flower, which you'd think it would be. Thinking of the things that spells need, I legitimately think that actually people are smoking a tooth of someone that's fallen out, because the mortality rate then must have been very high. The tooth loss rate, even higher. And so, what I wanted to suggest in your new role, and obviously we'd need to check with whoever it is, but if we could get somewhere that I might be able to get access to one of those teeth, should, hopefully in a very, very long time, any of your clients pass away.
Right. I will give you a shout. I'll let you know. It sounds like smoke of a dead man's tooth feels like it means that a dead man's tooth is a type of, like, wood or stick. Like something you can burn.
You'd hope so. But
yeah,
I don't know. But all I can see, as of yet, I have been unable to find anything other than literally smoking a dead man's tooth, because it has the fire. The recipe has the fire. You pop a tooth on it. Do you think any of your clients would be up for that? Do you think? What do you think their appetite for dark arts is?
I reckon they'll be fine. I'll keep an eye and ear out. I'll check each time I purchase them.
Yeah, if you could, when you have the paperwork, if you could suggest as like an add-on, because I'm happy to cover like a commission for yourself or an additional fee for whoever's trading, because I appreciate that not everyone might want that. I
think the problem is like I'm a bit of a completist, and so I'm not sure how I feel about sacrificing one of my collection.
Oh, sure, yeah.
To burning it. I feel like I'd be like, oh, I'll never have that tooth back now.
Okay, so how about pop it on the fire for a bit, get a little bit, because I only need the smoke, so you can keep the tooth, and then I return the tooth.
Oh, right. We'll just heat it up a bit. Like in a teaspoon. We'll heat it up like like it's heroin.
Yeah, just like dark arts heroin.
Yeah,
or in many ways, heroin's probably in dark arts adjacent anyway. Okay, so I feel really confident about that, actually. That I think that spell's going to work out real nice when I get it going. And if I remember, I think it is like a spell. A lot of the spells result to 3 or 4 things. Like one of them is like healing or a love potion or bringing livestock to you, looking after livestock. Like they're the top 3. So it's got to be for one of those. Or the last one is for finding a thief. Or for finding somebody who's stolen stuff and returning it to you. I feel pretty confident. I think we're going to do a good job. When I get that smoke, things are going to really turn my way. So, something that you said in the bit about when you're experimenting, when you're creating like your paper puppetry stuff, was that it's very how. And I started thinking about this with the things that I do as well. Having an idea in your head, and it's rather than it being like the why to do that on stage, because I think that's pretty self-obvious. Like, why? Why wouldn't you want to see like a wonderful paper puppetry thing with glitter that bursts out? Why wouldn't you want to see that? So it's more the how do you make that thing on stage. I had a conversation with somebody and they were really confused about that's the way that I make things as well, is like how you do something and thinking about how you do it rather than the other bit, the surrounding bits of like what does this say to an audience or whatever. You have that? Do you experience that?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. It's if can I do it and then how do I do it? Because I feel like if you can do something that makes people go, how did you do that? Then that is the why.
Yeah.
Like people like being presented with surprises or even problems or something to think about. People like things that give them questions that they then have to try and answer. I think that's what's really fun about the sort of stuff that we do is like, yeah, we'll present something and then they're like, how did you do that? Right. You don't need a why if people want to know how you did something. That's why magicians exist. No one's like, why is a magician making a rabbit come out of the hat? Like, what point are you making with that? Like, you don't need a point. It's a fun thing.
So can you remember the spell that you asked for me to take a look at?
Yes, I wanted some help because I recently had my pocket picked while I was away. I had my phone stolen. I now, thankfully, thanks to the charity of many of my followers and friends, people pitched in and I was able to replace the phone. This isn't necessarily to have the phone returned to me. However, I did lose all of my photos and images videos and everything that was on that phone. So if there is a way to recover those things that I've lost, joke notes, poems, the stuff that I'd written that were all on there, the backup didn't work. So anything to do that, to somehow return that. And I feel like the people who steal things, if you're having to steal things, you're already lacking something that I have, even if it's just purpose and meaning in life. So, it'd be nice if we have time to do something that could maybe give good fortune, like as in whether it's something nice in their life or just monetarily helping them.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's very kind of you to have that as your response. And also I'm really sorry that happened. It sounds bad.
Yeah, it was real sucky at the time. It was the day before my birthday as well. It's very annoying.
So, you're in luck in a way, because one of the major things that magic spells are done for is finding thieves and trying to get goods and things back. Because obviously,
that's handy.
In the time of 1700s, 1600s, 1500s, there wasn't a police force. There wasn't any sort of lost property organisation except for magic casters. Objects that either went missing because you lost them, because they disappeared, because they broke, or because somebody stole them. And there is one spell that I have been waiting to do.
Yes.
That you came along, Beck, and you're making it happen. So this is, have you ever heard of the art of Koskinomancy?
Koskinomancy?
Or Kosinomancy? Maybe?
Kosinomancy? No.
Kosinomancy is a form of divination, so it's a way to find out truth, it's a way to divine secrets from the world, and it's also known as the spell or the ritual of sieve and shears. So this spell there's a few things that you can do for it. It works in a few ways. Ultimately, what you do is you use the shears to hold the sieve, and then you encourage the sieve to drop, which is the spirit working on the sieve for you. And then you see which direction the sieve falls. And that tells you where
down,
your things
usually.
are. Sure, down. But in which direction down we get.
Sure. As in, like, the handle will point in a direction?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That feels right. And you can ask certain questions for the sieve and the shears. So that you could say, like, so what would often happen is that you would get... So somebody would come into like a witch or a cunning person's house and they would say like,
Oh, my saddle's gone missing.
And so you'd have a chat about it, and the witch would ask things like, "Oh,
have you noticed anyone around the town with a new saddle?"
And it's like,
Well, no, but I hate Jerry.
so, "Oh, right."
What? Why'd you hate Jerry?
I don't know, it just seems like the sort of guy who'd steal a saddle.
And then you choose. Then it'd be like,
Right, well, I think the spirits tell me it's 4 people who could have stolen this off you. There's like the mayor, there's Farmer John, there's Alan, and also Jerry. And let's have a look and see who we think did it. Oh man, you won't believe this. Jerry did it.
and the person who says like,
Ah, I knew it! I hate that guy!
and then it would be a good job, well done.
Nice. And that's
So
what
that's
we're
how-
going to do.
That's the kind of thing we're going to do.
Okay.
So there's a few things that I want you to have a think about as I just double check the ritual that we have to say. What I'd like you to think about is 4 potential things or something that you'd like to ask a question of to find out a bit more about. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on the floor the directions of north, east, south, and west, and then we're going to place an answer for each of those points, and we see whether Civ lands that we get an answer for it. So
Cool.
we can also, I think, because we're dealing with divination, we can also, I suspect, if we focus our good vibes on it, we can send good luck out this way too. Because
Okay.
it's always about trying to find something out, but I think you can send stuff as well. It doesn't say anything
Yeah,
about that.
the post is a 2-way system.
That's right. That's
And
what
that
I
goes for
always say.
spiritual post as well.
So bear with me as I get the compass. Have you ever done any magic before, Beck?
No, I don't know if I have. Maybe as a kid, probably tried stuff when I was like at sleepovers and stuff.
Like a Ouija board kind of thing.
Yet weirdly, I don't know when this episode will go out or if my husband will listen to it, but he wrote a play that featured a Ouija board, and so just before we started recording, because I'm gonna get it printed as a book as a gift, for Christmas. So I was redesigning the poster as the book cover, and so I had to look at Ouija boards and do all of that. So I've weirdly been staring at Ouija stuff today.
Cool.
This is a
How
very
did you-
similar thing, isn't it?
This is exactly the same.
Yeah,
Exactly
just
the
with
same.
fewer answers.
Yeah. If you only want 4 things found out, you're in
Yeah.
for a treat. And also, if gravity plays more of a role as well, I suppose.
And hopefully whoever we're contacting is called Jerry.
Yeah. Well, if it's Jerry, you've got to watch out because I think he's a bad lad. Can you see this on the floor? Does
I
it
mean,
make-
there's a lot of stuff on the floor, Eddie. Okay, so Eddie is
Oh.
pointing at, he's got 4 pieces of paper,
yeah. So
which
I've-
appears to be, I'm guessing there's an N on one for north. There's
That's
an E
right.
on the other for east, south, and west.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right. So we're pointing all in the directions we need. That's crucial. That's very
Mm-hmm.
important, Beck. And so now, is this what you thought when I said I'm going to do a magic spell for you to help you?
No, I think if magic involved more sort of Twister-like gameplay, I would be more heavily involved.
Have you had to think about what questions you'd like to ask for the Civ and shit?
Wait, it has to have a definitive answer, doesn't it?
It has to have one of 4 answers.
Okay.
Or if you want a general direction, we can use north, east, south.
Let's
west.
do that. So where's my phone?
Good. We're going to ask, where is your phone? Now, so there's a lot of people who have different opinions of how this spell works. It's most famously known through a description of a guy called Cornelius Agrippa in his 3 books of occult philosophy, 1533. So there is a belief sometimes that you have to compel a demon to do it for you. Do you have
Ooh.
any? Do you feel all right with that? Asking a demon for some help?
Why would a demon help me? Can that be one of the questions?
Yeah. What 4 answers do you want? Good, satisfied, somewhat happy, average,
Yeah.
below
So
average.
why would a demon help me? So the answers have to be
This feels like a real labyrinth, like, the
one of
the-
us
the
always
two-
tells
the-
the truth and one of us always lies. Yeah. So the answers have to be because I'm nice, because you have to owe me one. I'm speaking on behalf of the demon.
So north is you have to be nice.
Like, well, no, north is like the demons saying that they're just being nice. They're a nice demon.
Okay.
That's why they're helping
Yeah,
me.
all right, fair.
Then the other one would be maybe the opposite direction. South would be because I want you to owe me.
Cool. Yeah.
Let's say that west is because it will piss off someone else. So in a
Ooh,
way,
yeah.
it's still bad.
Spite. Okay. What are we looking
And the other one is bored.
for? Yeah, of course.
Just a
the
bored
famous-
demon.
The famous bored demon.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right, so we need to say some words, and I'm going to write these down for you. Okay. So we need to say this. I think we need to say this 3 times together, just to get the just to kick things off. Now, these words explicitly don't mean anything in any language, at least.
All right.
So here we go. Okay, I think we just have our best guesses at it each 3 times we go. Do you
Okay.
want to have a practice to yourself or anything before we go?
Nah, I'm good. Let's do this.
Okay, cool. Okay, 3, 2.
Dies
Mias, get
Benedofet Dowima Enitem
Mouse.
Dies
Mias, Geshet, Benedofet,
Domina
Enitem Mouse.
Dies
Mias, Geshet, Benedofet, Dowima Anita Mouse. The last bit does sound like Anita Mouse, doesn't it? It does sound like
Anita Mouse.
You got.
Or a character called Anita Mouse. And,
Oh yeah, I like Anita Mouse.
Yeah,
And
she's lovely. Little Anita Mouse.
Oh, Dias Mias is also feels
Does
like
feel Dios Mios, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well now we're good to go. So here's what happens. Can you see the sieve? So here's a sieve.
Yep. I feel like this is going to end with, and that's how Eddie lost his finger. At the very least, I feel like it's going to end up with you accidentally cutting through your headphone cable with the shears.
I'm going to have a few tries at different ways to do this because I've read a few books on how people
All right, show
can
off.
spell. Nobody really can figure out how it actually works in terms of getting the shears to hold the sieve.
Surely you hold the shears.
Sometimes people hold the shears, other times people just leave it on the floor and let whatever fall where it goes.
Ah.
So I think for the sake of us, we've got a really nice point here
Mm-hmm.
at the top of this. I'm gonna let go of the shears. We're gonna watch it drop, and then we'll see where it points to. Does that sound okay?
Yep. I think it's going
Right.
to fall outside of the circle and we won't know which direction it's pointing.
Pretty clear north, I think. Just a
So-
nice demon.
Just a nice demon. That's nice.
That's all right, isn't it? So you
All
feel
right.
confident?
I
Okay.
am. So let's ask the nice demon which direction my phone is in.
Okay. So I'm gonna try a new way to hold this. So which direction is your phone in? Come on. That's north again. That's a clear north again.
Ooh. Well, now you have to tell me, because I don't know where you
So-
are, but you have to work out what direction Brussels is.
So it could be anywhere from Stretford onwards in North Manchester.
Well, not Brussels, I tell you that.
So right, let's zoom out. So maybe it's moved though. This is what I think could happen.
Yeah, maybe someone brought it back to the UK. Or maybe someone
Could
in
be.
Iceland has it.
It could
Or
be
not
Bolton.
Iceland. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see how far we can go. So it could be, if you're following me up north, it could be Aberdeen. Could be maybe in the Shetland Islands.
Okay.
Okay. And if we keep going up, it does start to get a little bit empty in the islands.
Maybe it's just in the sea.
Maybe it could be in the sea.
Yeah.
Or on Jan Mayen. I don't know. That sounds like a cool place. Sort of Greenland.
I mean,
way.
if you keep going north, you eventually end up south, don't you? That's not how it
Yeah,
works.
eventually.
No,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not how it
that's-
works.
Well, maybe not back in this time. Yeah, because you could get to Madrid if you keep going real north. But then I do think the demon's being a bit facetious at that point. So it could be Greenland. Has that helped at all?
Yes, that's massively helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Can we ask the demon if they will return my photos and images?
Sure. So what should we? How do we? So I think if we go on the northeast southwest again, let's say north is yes, south is absolutely not, east is keep an eye out, and west is like on the 8 ball, unlikely.
Okay, perfect. Love
So
it.
Not no, but not like it's definitely happening. So I'm trying a new for the listeners at home. I'm trying a new way where I've put the little hook onto the shear, and I think I'm just gonna shake it a bit.
Sounds dangerous.
Oh, east. I think I got east there.
Ooh,
So that's more likely than not.
nice. Well, that's nice. That makes me feel a bit more hopeful.
Yeah. How does that feel? How do you think it could come back?
AirDrop. I mean, I don't have an iPhone, but the Samsung equivalent. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's just going to pop up in there one day. I like this. I like your thinking.
Then should we do... we need to send some good vibes out.
Oh, yeah, let's send some good vibes out. We'll ask the demon... We'll ask Matt Demon if he can send some good fortune to the thief so that they no longer feel the need to steal other people's things in whatever direction that the thief is in.
Okay, so I think we use the same rating system again. So like a north is like, yeah, definitely going to do that. And east is like...
Oh, I think they're going to do it. They're just choosing what direction it goes in.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's north or south, it's going to get there. Oh, this is... Right. East again.
Oh, there we go.
So good luck. Congratulations, East.
Yeah, anyone who lives east,
if
well
you
done.
Or anyone you know is east, well done. Good for you.
You're
Hopefully
welcome.
That works out. So that's it. Do we need to close anything up? No. It's strange. Normally when you do a spell, especially something that involves summoning, you need to like close the salt circle or like re-exit it or do something to cleanse. But it doesn't say anything on the description, so I'm sure this will be fine. It'll be all right, and no need to worry about it.
Wait until you and I wake up at 3 a.m. with a bunch of questions and a demon on our chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about the dead man's tooth.
Beck, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you, to also, I hope, help out in some way using my deep reserves of magic that I have within my bones and blood.
You have. I'm already... Do you know what? The main thing I wanted out of this was comfort, and that's what I've received. And wasn't that the journey all along?
Isn't that the real magic?
Isn't that the friends that we made along the way?
The friend next to Darren Brown. No, they weren't sitting next to Darren Brown. Or what? No, you're not Darren Brown.
Darren Brown was carrying
What a reveal.
Along the beach, and that's why there's only one set of footprints.
What a lovely conversation with Beck, and I think the spell went pretty well, dare I say so. But shall we have a little look? Beck sent me a note on how the spell's gone. There's been a good amount of time in between, so let's have a listen.
Hello. It's been about 6 months since my phone was stolen, and I know this because I am back in Brussels on a Friday night before Comic-Con begins. That's right, they have Comic-Con twice a year here, one in the spring, one in the autumn. And my phone was pickpocketed on the Friday night before Comic-Con in October, also November last year. So, yeah, I'm back in the same conditions. The good news is that I haven't had this phone stolen tonight. If I can make it through tonight, I feel like maybe the curse has been broken. The bad news is I have not yet received my old phone. I mean, I am in the right city for it, so if I was to find my old phone, perhaps it could show up this weekend. But I doubt it. So I don't think it worked. If the spell did work, perhaps it worked for the thief and they've had a transformative time and having a lovely life. Unfortunately, we don't know this, so we can't report back. But I like to believe it. I like to think that that's what happened. But anyway, that is my update. Unfortunately, I haven't noticed any differences that have come about specifically because of the spell. But thank you very much for your help regardless, and for a lovely conversational evening as well. Bye.
Okay, that feels like a pretty solid no, doesn't it, actually? That's a shame, but you know what? I think it was quite a big thing we were asking. And it was a nice demon as well, so at least there's that. We didn't mess around with summoning anything we weren't prepared for. And the curse was lifted because she didn't have her second phone stolen. So there's benefits to be seen in there, but ultimately I'd say a failure. But never, we carry on. Not all of these are going to be winners. And in fact, I thought it might be a little bit fun for me to try my own thing to see if I can summon anything on my own. So I've got the sieve, and I've got the shears, and I've got the thing here. And what I'm going to try and do is, some of you might have noticed the Venga Boys have popped up a lot in this series and in the show. And what I would be really keen to try and do is ask them if the party album was deliberately a concept album, a single narrative woven all the way through it. So I've got yes, maybe, no, and stop contacting us by all means. Okay, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's pointing to maybe. You know what? That's fair. I shouldn't have put that on as a thing. But the quest continues for that, and to tot up if I'm magic or not, because I still think we're in the positive so far. What have we got now? 6. I think 4 out of 6 is pretty successful, right? That's a pretty good rate of success. You know, worse than what you'd want for a plumber, but better than a bad lawyer. Maybe even a good lawyer. I don't know what a lawyer's success rate is. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thank you to Beck for her time. You can follow her at bchill, or Beck Hill, mostly wherever she is. She's a pretty online person, and she's very good online, so it won't be hard to find her. And please do watch and listen to her stuff. If you have children, or if you are a child like I am, a 12 to 35-year-old child. I don't like the 35, though. It makes me feel like I'm actually 35, and I'm not. I have so much youth compared to that. How much youth? That's rude. Don't ask that. Horror Heights is her book series that if you have any children, I would urge you to buy for them. It's spooky stuff, but in a very funny, light way. And follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm still calling it that. At EDYHURST. Please come and see the show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival from the 16th to the 28th at 4:20 p.m. at Assembly, George Square. Put a colon in there, The Crate. It'll be fantastic. Or get tickets for me in Manchester area, Salford. You gotta be specific, because it's the Lowry, Salford, not Manchester. Greater Manchester area? Absolutely. Manchester? Oh, you're in trouble. So that's the 31st of October and the 1st of November. And then Camden People's Theatre tickets are already available as well. That's on the 12th and the 13th of December. There are a few more dates that I will announce when they come live. We're getting a tour together, baby! And I will see you very soon for the next episode with the fantastic Aaron Simmons, where I try to conjure the Philosopher's Stone. And maybe that works or not. And also we have a go at solving melancholy. So something for everybody in there. Likewise, if you have any spell requests, please get them in. And we will solve them all on the next episode of I Pod a Spell on You, Edy Hurst's Wonderfull Discoverie of Witches podcast. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.